So now let's get into a bit of my deeper talks into what I personally feel is working out at the moment. On this regard, we also have to consider one big issue, and that is tile defenders. Be careful in the Kingdom of Men campaign because the one owning a territory, the Undying, activates control point protection and gives it to everybody. Lourdes activates it and gives it to everybody. Sauron. So if you're attacking a player in the opponent's territory, you're getting minus 40% damage dealt. So for example, if I fight over here on this tile, I'm safe. Over here on this tile, I'm not safe. I will quite likely lose. Just a Brigadier. And what my experience is so far regarding why I'm thinking about talking about anything, I got my team so far at least to be able to one-shot the cold drake layers. I'm not saying I'm an expert or something like this. I have the same experience like everybody else on his third day. I just dived into theory crafting beforehand a little bit, and I think the damage values of my two damage commanders are nice enough to at least give you an idea. And if I check into one of my sweeping reports, also my secondary army has some decent values. So I will just give you like a short overview of what I think so far. First of all, you of course need to consider what kind of army you want to run. If you want to be like commander focused or unit focused. If you want to be unit focused, you of course, like this army, you need to consider which unit and which commanders could benefit this unit quite nicely. So every single unit army that is on evil roleplay or mixed should try to get Witch King in some way because, or especially all evil armies, because he gives all evil units in 3 allied formations or respect 10 on all 4 allied formations the opportunity in the first 2 rounds to gain follow up by 75%. So yeah, a 75% follow up chance is like the old passive in the first 2 rounds. He gives it to literally every unit. So like it says here, right? Only units, not commanders. So he's not super strong with other damage commanders, but he has, yeah, he's like the must-have in every formation where you want to get the most out of your damage. Another one who pairs with him quite decently is of course Black Serpent for the Horn of Harad, because in the first rounds the you have higher damage. But yeah, for unit commanders, unit damage commanders. So now, unit synergy is the most important thing, or rather, synergy of your commander with your units. For example, if you want to run an Arbalest comp, Sunint is still really a really good call, simply because she has still Dark Alert tactics and Hara tactics, giving all orcs plus damage. And Gorbak is a nice addition. I mean, respect 10. I just tried to get him up with like 150 items he got from respect 6 epic to respect 8 epic. So, but if you get him up to respect 10, his relic is quite decent. But right here, his Watchman of Kirith Ungol stat gives unit orc in allied formations plus 14 attack. So another nice buff. Grey Leader gives some defense to orcs. Also in allied formations, that's quite important about it. And then I mixed in Chagrat here because it's just like a sweeping army, or it's gonna be a sweeping army. I didn't fix it already. And also for Watchman of Kirit Ungol. And then, yeah. This is also quite decent. Kirit Ungol Garrison, but mainly for the Watchman. The Captor skill currently is bugged. If you upgrade it, it's always at minus 25%. I don't know if it will get fixed. But on this, you get a general idea. For example, Sunint with a Gorbak and then a Witch King in the army is extremely nice because the Arbalest got nerfed quite hard by losing their 80-90% follow up. It's now only 20%, so Witch King is actually better. And Witch King, of course, boosts their damage then quite a bit. Yeah, but, or then just changing Shagrat for Black Serpent is, in my opinion, a possible army, and Kirun swap Kirun for Witch King, right? So Sonin, Black Serpent, Witch King, Gorbak is an army that could be working with Arbalest. I didn't do too much testing, so I just say I saw decent reports with this combination. And gear-wise, that's the next thing. You want something like I have on my Ugluk. You want a hammer because you want unit attack. Unit attack, unit attack, unit attack, and you need items so that you can strengthen. That's more important than everything else. So far it's so good. Yeah, right. Then in here I also have a physical damage commander and a focus damage commander. And this is also my current main army. Perfect timing. Oh, I think this one didn't optimize this equipment yet. So yeah, okay. It's now you need to consider it looks terrible, but on the other hand, please keep in mind I am in our territory. My units get 40% less damage, and his commanders, this is my main commander stack. They are already equipped quite decently. So this is not a real scenario fight because obviously my army is just set up way better than his, and I am defending with 40% defense. That's important to note. Just to show you guys again here, Undying minus 10% for all, minus 10% for all, minus 10% for all, minus 10% for all. This fight would have, of course, not looked completely different, but looked quite a bit differently. If I wouldn't have been in my own territory or my faction's territories. So right, yeah. Why Berserkers only? Because I like Berserks. That's not something too important. So let's dive a little bit into commander setups. For physical damage commanders, or for damage commanders, there are clear best in slot items. For unit commanders, it's all debatable. For example, this is my Undying. He's my frontline. I play him with Undead Commanders. I have the 90% evasion on 3 formations. I play him with Undertaker level 5, so he deals 6 damage, level 5 to 3 formations. Not for the damage dealt, but for hitting 3 formations, because he's hitting the formation and the commander as well. So with 1 auto attack, he's dealing damage 6 times, getting rid of the enemy's White Council skill really fast. Weapon Master, because at level 5, the damage is at least 150%. That's not the main focus. I have a small chance of a stun, and this is formation also, not just unit. So he's dealing actually to 2 damage. So those are 4 procs in the first 3 rounds. So 4 times per round makes 12 procs, and on 12 procs, a 15% chance is basically close to 100% chance of a stun. So it's a nice plus. And yeah, well, the second win because it's a heal. I don't have another heal, so the heal block doesn't bother me anymore as well. Or any further, we can check in the report really fast if there was any form of mentionable heal. I always click the wrong buttons. So, yeah, well, 2.5k heal, right? Nothing great. But the way I set up my Undying with his equipment, it's not worth investing into his damage skills, or because I on him am stacking, as you can see, unit defense, unit defense, unit defense, commander defense, unit defense, and also here unit defense, and of course always trying to get a bit of command stat. The head is debatable. I think there are a few with command, right? So this one could actually be a better version or a better option, but I don't have one with the evasion. And for the defensive units, it's the only formation, the formation that is supposed to tank as much damage as possible. This formation I would advise to look into the passive. For every other command version or every other formation, passives are a nice bonus but not a must. But especially the evasive action with first 3 rounds, gaining minus 20% damage received, in my opinion, is quite a strong passive. I mean, it's basically tactical mark on a mithril code, and that was also best on slot. It's always nice to have this, and I even stack it on my Undying, and it's a bit of an overkill, but the 10% of attacks that get through then also get reduced quite a bit. So, as you can see, my Undying, this report. Let's check this one of the Cold Drake reports where it was a draw. As you can see, my Lord and my Sestaro lost quite a few of Berserks, but he lost only really few Berserks. And damage taken 820k here, 27k, 70k, 31k. So I personally like it. The way he's set up currently, not saying it's best in slot, but at the moment, this combination for me for a defensive commander is working out. The second defensive one is Sauron. Stack on focus, because with focus he gets resistance against elemental attacks of the enemy. And he has little focus, but gives his units a lot of defense. So I will have one commander enduring if the enemy has a lot of physical damage, and here I will have one commander enduring if the enemy has a lot of elemental damage. And also on him, because I have stacked focus so high, I personally think his weakness is physical damage. So I used the passive that his formation will get less physical damage. So this way, his great weakness, because of the low defense value and also because his items are only not really unit defense, it's just a minor stat at a minor substat, so to say, but he has quite a bit of command. The Noldor sword gives a lot of command and stuff. So this is why I have this passive on him. For the tank units, in my opinion, the passive is really important. Now for damage dealing commanders, of course, the passive is nice. Like Sharpblade, more attack. Or this one, physical damage up with the commander's formation plus 10%. This also quite a nice one. Or Flay, damage ignores the target's defense, is of course always strong. Those are really good passives. Warcry is this, of course, if you play the combination with Witch King, Sunint, Black Serpent, where your main damage output is in the first 2 to 5 rounds. This one is, of course, an insane addition. So if you have like a hammer with Warcry, 20% more damage in the first rounds, and a hammer max refined is, let me not lie, 84 unit attack. And then for a chest, you just want a chest with, because I broke down too much, you of course want the golden chest with unit attack as well. And just always, like usual, get in here and check for the equipment. Hammer has the best attack stat, so this is what you want for a unit attack, and that also gives you a lot of command what you want for your unit damage commander. You want command stat and unit attack. So the hammer is best in slot. This one is bad because it gives commander damage. You don't want it. There is an elven item that's still quite nice. This one? Yeah. It also gives tons of command, 110 and 14 attack, to 120 and 16 attack, so the hammer is a little bit better. But the hammer can't be worn by elves. So if you want to play like Gil-galad Elrond combination, which is really strong at the moment, you of course then want the Elven White Knife for the command and the unit attack set, right? Just not saying you take this item in every circumstance, but if you want to play like Gil-galad Elrond combination, which is really strong at the moment, you of course then want the Elven White Knife for the command and the unit attack set, right? Just not saying you take this item in every circumstance, but if you want to play like Gil-galad Elrond combination, which is really strong at the moment, you of course then want the Elven White Knife for the command and the unit attack set, right? Just not saying you take this item in every circumstance, but just so you have like a general idea of what to look for on an item. This one is, if I recall correctly, the one with the highest commander attack, but it's +8, and the Warborn Battle Chest is +4. So you're missing out on 12 attack in the end if you have it max strengthened, but you get tons of defense, and I think even and even a bit more commander HP, and the focus is irrelevant. So I'm not sure where I would put the focus on here, but for example, this one is also quite nice for your frontline commander because you will just simply live a good chunk longer and his units will get more beefy. This one is insane for defensive focus commanders. So this is, for example, in my opinion, would be the best on slot item for my Sauron, because he wants focus, defense, and unit defense, and HPs, of course, on all chests, so it's decent. This one is 5 attack. I must check. I have no clue which golden chest gives unit attack because I didn't look at it at all. +2 is not enough. This one here. Okay, so if this, you want this on the in your. I try always to make an example on the Sunint, Black Serpent, Witch King combination, or the Gil-galad Elrond. And Arwen is quite decent, and Galadriel, like in this regard, right? One orc combination and one elf combination, because from what I saw so far, those are the most potent ones. You either go for a physical damage commander with one focus commander, or 1 or 2 physical damage commanders combined with 1 focus damage commander and 1 tank. That's quite a typical lineup so far. Or you go with an elf army, or you go with an evil man orc mixed army built around Sunint. So this tracker's plate, for example, will give a lot of unit attack to your units, and it can be worn by orc commanders and by evil man commanders, so it really fits nicely into the Sunint combination. This one, of course, this one was what I thought or searched for. Yeah, it's for elves, it's for orcs, it's for evil men, and even for Maya. So I think for a unit damage, every single build that is built around unit damage can use the Ranger's Shroud, and it's 45 attack for your units when max strengthened. It's just simply, without any doubt, the best in slot item for the commander who holds the damage units. Yeah, sorry. But this is exactly what you should do. What do you want your army to do? Which commander of your army has which role, which is a tank, which is just a supporter. A supporter should always be built a little bit more tanky. Or, for example, Witch King can be a supporter with a follow-up, but still built into focus damage because he has okayish focus damage, right? Stuff like this. Get a general idea what the role of your commander in your army should be, and then search for the gear with the best on slot stats for this role. For example, physical damage commanders all want the Palantir of Orthanc. It's damage plus, it's attack plus. Nothing to talk about. All Sestaro wants a Signal of the Barrows because it's damage commander and a lot of focus. Every other commander that is not undead wants a Fine Smoking Pipe because if you see here, this is 3 to 5, this is 5 to 5, so no damage variations. It's 16 focus, this is only 14 focus. The pipe is just simply better in every stat, so the Fine Smoking Pipe is the best accessory for your focus damage commander, but undead commanders can't wear it, so it's not best in slot for Sestaro, Witch King, Kamul, because they can't wear it. I must admit I have no idea, I didn't check the undead here, King of the Dead, a single time, so maybe for him it's also applicable that he wants the Signet because he's undead, but I have no clue of his skills, so I can't recommend anything for him. The Orthanc Devilry gives you Siege, but if you wailed enough before the update, keep the old Siege shields because they are still better than this. Other than this, it's command, focus, and unit attack and defense. It's a good amount of attack actually with 8. I have no clue again which accessory gives you more unit attack than 8. Is it actually best in slot for unit attack? Huh. This catches me a little bit off guard. So yeah, on your unit damage commander, All Think Devilry could be quite decent because it gives you the highest amount of unit attack. But 55 command, is there anything that gives more command? 50. Oh. This one is also 55, it gives a bit more defense. So for a damage commander, it looks like Meara's Reign. The All Think Devilry is nice. Nightstar is definitely nice. Commander Attack and Focus is a combination I don't like too much. But yeah, so as I said, check what you want. This, of course, is always nice because it gives a lot of unit attack and also unit defense and a good chunk of command. You have options, and the pure best in slot items are actually only 2 slots. For the head as well, this one is the best in slot for a commander attack, but it's not so much best in slot that it's worth more than a passive. That's what I want to mention at the very end. This one, if I recall correctly, exactly unit attack. So you want this on your Sunint combination. Is it wearable for good side? No. Maya maybe, but I don't think it would work out on Gandalf the White. I think it's the Hunter's Guide. Yeah, the Hunter's Guide. You want the Hunter's Guide on your elf damage commander. Hunter's Guide is not wearable by orcs, but if you, for example, stack the damage units of yourself on Kirun, he could wear it. Why Kirun? I like his Respect 5 skill. But, as I said, check it out or use it on Black Serpent, etc. If Black Serpent holds your Arbalests, he can use the Hunter's Guide. But if your Arbalests are on Gorbak, he cannot use it. Sunint, of course, can use it as well. That's the good thing about the Sunint, Witch King, Black Serpent, Gorbak combination. Gorbak and Sunint buff allied formations orcs. Always allied formations. So you're not bound to play the orcs on themselves. You can give them to any commander in the combination because Black Serpent, Witch King, Gorbak and Sunint all give their buff to allies. But I must check real fast before I keep on recommending those 4. Is Black Serpent even buffing every single one? Yeah, of 4 ally formations. So yeah, all 4 of them give their buffs to. So Black Serpent and Witch King give their important buffs to 4 allied formations, and Gorbak and Sunint buff simply orcs. So they will search for the orc formation, the orc commander in your formation, and will buff this one. This is why I personally like the idea behind them. People still need to make it work. That's not my part because I'm playing other stupider stuff like my beloved Ugluk, who sadly is so bad now or so hard to play now that he's only in my secondary army. But yeah. And exactly commander damage, you want a Cask of Pride, and for a focus damage commander, you want a Grey Wizard set because of a lot of focus. Yeah. And now comes my final word regarding this. So let's do it. It's a bit confusing, sorry. Still everything this way. Yeah. So for example, in this formation, my damage dealer is Gorbak. So the other ones are supporting him or are damage dealers themselves, like Lords, and you could build Saruman so he buffs Ugluk by using his Sharky skill, because then the Uruk-hai, but it's just in 3 allied formations, so you need then to mix in trolls or other medium units, losing the buff of a small unit formation. Not sure if it's worth using this one. But yeah, so the commander holding the damage units needs, of course, the gear with all the damage. And having gear with high unit attack stats is more important than having the right passive. But only to a certain value, right? Because if you're like losing only 5 to 10 attack, but in exchange get a proper fitting passive, it's of course worth more to get the passive. But in general, the raw stats are more important. For defense commanders, it's, as I said before, in my personal opinion, the complete other way around. Always, can't I look at them right here? Okay, confusing. Always prioritize a passive over the best in slot item, but not take a trash item just for the passive. The raw stats are always more important than the passive. The higher the item, the less important the passive. This goes for tier and strengthening and refining level. If you're using blue gear, the passive is what you want. If you use purple gear, unstrengthened, unrefined, or low strengthened, low refined, you want still to find the right passive. If you're using purple gear, high strengthened, high refined, the passive is a really nice add-on, especially for purple gear, because this is way more common to get, so you should most likely have a bit more variety of them. But when it comes to gold gear stats are so good that it's, especially on the weapon and on the accessory, often more important to get the right item than to get the right passive. Only exception is maybe a defensive commander. And the absolute exception, Sestaro is my best example for this, is on damage commanders. The weapon with commander for damage, and the accessory with damage for commander. Commander for damage. I'm a bit tired. With damage for commander are always the absolute best on slot and are always worth losing the passive as long as you can refine them. So, for example, if I would go to my Sestaro now. Oh, I fought again. Let's check it this time. Yeah. As I said, this is not representative, simply because I have 40% damage reduction, so this way my lords can even perform while defending. And also consider lords got, his weakness got reduced a little bit, because now he only loses 100% damage proc every second round, so he only loses 500% physical damage over the entire fight when defending. Before, he lost like 20% of his entire damage output. Now it's below 5%, so he's now also a decent defender. Quite important to note, in my opinion. But yeah, as I said, this is everything here happening here is not representative. I'm sitting here deliberately on a tile with 40%, where my faction has 40% reduction. Back to my Sestaro thing. Sestaro, here, I could give him another accessory, of course. For example, if I had a Palantir with the, like here, Palantir with Lord of the Arcane, I would finish a lot of the Arcane bonus, but I would lose focus, and I wouldn't, in this case, I would even lose Commander, of course. This is no way worth it. I would lose a lot of focus, 40 to focus, and I would lose Commander damage for 10% more poison or focus damage dealt. In my opinion, absolutely not worth it. But if you don't have it like this, you're using, just for the sake of the buff, you're using the Drums of Moria, then the Palantir suddenly looks way more appealing. Even if you might lose the lore of the Arcane buff, right? An unrefined Signal of the Barrow at least gives the 3 to 5 damage and a little bit of focus. So, and if you can strengthen a little bit, and every refinement level is a big upgrade. So, in this regard, the accessory and the weapon are always more important. Like, for example, right here, I could use and refine a Cask of Pride. And I could strengthen it if I would mix some stuff around, right? I could then use a proper Cask of Pride. Would give me way more commander attack, but I would lose the Might passive, where my commander's physical damage of my commander's formation is increased. In this case, 20 attack more won't bring me a 10% increase because I'm already at 200 attack. With the new damage formula, attack, your commander is dealing his damage, and because he's a physical damage commander, before his damage is dealt, it gets through the formula if your attack is higher than the enemy's defense or the enemy's defense is higher than your attack. With 200 attack, low defense commanders are already so far below my attack value that the defense doesn't matter either way because there's a hard cap. I think it's approximately 30 defense. If you have 30 attack more than the enemy has defense, you're dealing close to max physical damage. And if your the enemy's defense is 30 higher than your attack, he gets the maximum damage reduction. Somewhere around 30. I don't have it memorized yet, but in Gore's Discord, those numbers are around somewhere. So yeah. Just getting 20 attack more wouldn't benefit me enough to lose the 10% damage. An Axe of Khazad-dûn, on the other hand, with 14 to 30 attack on max refined, would be way, way better than just keeping the passive. So for a weapon that is at least 2 or 3 times refined, and an accessory that is at least 2 or 3 times refined, and in the best case scenario also 3 times strengthened, those weapons are, from this spot on, for damage commanders are always better than a set bonus. A set bonus is simply a really nice addition, but it's no must-have if you can equip a way better accessory or a way better weapon. Like I said here, I could use another. I had like this trinket, or there was a box with where I could get like 16 or 20 focus, but no commander damage. But still get the war cry. But 6 to 10 damage. It's a way too big increase. This is formation damage plus 20% the first 3 rounds. If you're looking at it, I'm losing a 10 of maximum damage. It's going down from 48 to 43. So I lose 21% of my damage value throughout the entire fight. So it's not worth to get the passive for the damage value. And especially because it's its best in slot item with the focus as well, or like the Grey Wizard set. I used a Bone Mask before. It's just simply way better in every stat, so I don't have refinement. I lost 15 HP, but look at the focus I got. But for this head, I wouldn't use it if I lose Lord of the Arcane. A Lord of the Arcane Bone Mask is still better than a Grey Wizard head with the wrong passive. Same goes for the chest. A chest with focus is still better than the protection of Numenor if it ends in you losing the set effect. But if you're losing the set effect either way because your weapon and your accessory do not match on your damage commander, just go for it. Take the best, take the chest and the head that give you the best raw stats. For example, if my Palantir and my Axe of Khazad-dûn would not match, and I wouldn't have a damage, a set effect, I would definitely switch to the Cask of Pride because it gives me more raw stats. But because the Cask of Pride is not worth more than the set effect, I'll stay with a full helmet to get the set effect up. And this is what you need to consider for every single one of your commander. And that's a bit of the issue.